Shelley Irwin here, and we're happy she's here. She has been in the radio business for a long time and is down at WGVU, and we're happy that she's slowed down enough to join us in studio here.
I've already worked out, so I've got that out of my system. They call me seasoned.
Okay.
I think that's okay.
Who calls you that?
Well, when you're introduced, you're seasoned, or, oh, what a legacy. So I'm starting to accept that, except I always say hashtag more to do.
I was going to say, she doesn't look seasoned to me.
The answer I was looking for.
Does she?
Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Big Boy versus Fudge.
Yeah, so Big Boy is the national day today, and we usually do the day today, but there's not a lot of today left. You've already worked out, you're here, but tomorrow is National Fudge Day, so we could have everybody, pick their favorite kind of fudge.
I actually did an interview with those from Mackinac
today. Oh, okay.
To talk about tomorrow,
nice.
And they sent me fudge.
Did they?
Oh, so I had the fudge in the studio. Didn't have the people, but so I could talk about the fudge. I should have brought you a piece of fudge. Anyway, I digress. But I grew up in southern Indiana where Big Boy was the place to go on a Friday night.
Well, okay. See, that's what I was wondering, because I think we could do Big Boy Day in a way, but it was like what you would order from Big Boy, maybe something like that. Did you go? And I'm asking this in all seriousness, Big G. I'm not. You do go by Big G, so there's that. Yeah. But did you go to Big Boy very often?
See, in Kalamazoo, there really wasn't a Big Boy for a long time, so not really. When we moved closer to Battle Creek, there was one in Battle Creek, so then I would go to that one. So yeah, I've been a few times.
Well, they supplanted the one, right, Shelley? They got rid of that one that's right downtown because they said, hey, I guess we'll put a soccer stadium here instead, and that'll do a little bit better.
There was that, but that was around for a long time, and we used to have, it was just a hop and a skip from my office, and I would have some planning meetings at that Big Boy. They had good pancakes and great service, and it was Big Boy, and they had the Big Boy outside, so we must pay tribute.
Well, if you're not going to go to Burger King or the local lunchroom there, the GVSU lunchroom, that Big Boy is kind of your only other option down by where you are.
Well, was.
Yeah, was. Yeah, and now you can just go catch a soccer game. If you want. It's soon anyway. Yeah. We're kind of excited about that happening. I've heard rumors, Big G, that they might try to put in a UFL team with that stadium coming in. Have you heard that?
I have not heard it. I've thought about it because it's the perfect venue for it. I don't know how many it's going to seat, but if you can put a soccer pitch in there, you can certainly put a football field in there. I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, I think it'll maximize the use of the stadium because people will be into soccer. They'll be able to ride high after the World Cup here that's going on right now. But I think having American football will probably help, I would think. But
the only thing is I don't know when the MLS season is, so I don't know if they would if there would be a conflict of scheduling for something like that.
Yeah, they'd have to work that part out. And I don't actually know are they going to be in the MLS, the Grand Rapids team, or is it going to be a different league? Okay.
No, they're going to be in the MLS.
When they first came to town, there was some discrepancy there. I wasn't sure which one they were doing. So they are MLS. Yeah, we'll have to look that up when the seasons are. But so we're going to celebrate both Big Boy and Fudge Day. You've decided. Shelley's in charge right now.
Well, at least until I walk out the door, I do love the microphone. I say we celebrate both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us about this interview with the Fudge folks here from Mackinac. What flavors did you get to try?
Mostly all chocolate.
Okay.
Rubas. I didn't get all. There are like 7 fudge
Oh, you
shops.
got a variety. Okay.
Yeah, I got Rubas. I got Murdoch's. I think Joanne's. And it was mostly all chocolate. I didn't get any of the... cherry. One was a cherry.
Okay.
I didn't get my favorite peanut, now I sound spoiled. My favorite has peanut butter but or turtle. There's a turtle fudge, and that's to die for. Don't eat it all in one sitting unless I'm in a bad mood. But so yes, you have samples, and then you take pictures, and it's just a nice I'm glad that they do that. And I did ask if all of the if they all get along, the shops, and she says, well, there's some healthy competition, but no fudge is bad fudge.
That's probably a good rule for fudge. So what I think I'm going to ask the other guests that will come on via the phone after you leave is what their favorite flavor of fudge is. So yours is peanut butter then? That's a good pick. What about you, Big G? Do you have a favorite?
Well, first of all, Murdoch's is my favorite Mackinac Island fudge by far. And I'm almost surprised there's no like sabotaging or anything like that. Somebody putting salt in the sugar canister or something like that just to kind of make them go, mm. But no, Murdoch's, and I am a peanut butter fudge guy.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to, next time we're on the island, I'll pick you up a piece, as they say.
Oh, you're a dear.
Well, wait, so you're going to sabotage, if you have Big G's fudge shop, you're going to go sabotage the neighboring fudge shop by putting
I didn't say I would.
Salt in the...
I said I'm surprised it doesn't happen.
Okay. I would just...
First step.
I was going to say, this sounds a little suspicious, doesn't it, Shelley? Now I have to watch out, like, for my tea over here.
Big G's running the board. He'll bring your microphone down.
I know.
Going there.
I know. That's always what he threatens to do, too. He's looking at me. Look how he looks at me, Shelley. He's
looking at you like I look at everybody else in this world.
Well, that's not how you look at Shelley, which is good. Because that's not how you should.
Because she's nice.
I know. Well, she is nice. I can't argue with that. That's why we're glad she's here.
There is that golden rule thing.
Yeah. See. Well,
if I'm going to be nice to you, you'll be nice to me, and the whole,
It's I would find it hard. You couldn't be mean to Shelley Irwin. Like how are you even going to do that? Have you had any unruly interviews?
No,
I wouldn't
have to
think
admit,
so, right?
No, on unruly. I know a couple of guests have left their ear pods in. I was like, why are your ear pods in? And a couple may not have had the ideal eye contact, but I can't really say I have any really negative stories in that time. So, but I move you around along. Maybe if I start seeing something come, I'm like, well, that's the end of the interview, Ryan. Appreciate you.
That's why my interview was only 2 minutes. Yeah, when I was on your show the other day. Here, I get it. I get it. Well, you got a lot of people to get in. I mean, there's a lot of people wanting to be on the show, and you do a great job of getting those community stories out to the community. It's a necessary show for the community. It's a great one to advertise all of the different things going on. I always like looking at your schedule because it's just such a potpourri.
Yeah, there really is no rhyme or reason. I hate to say it, but it's kind of like, when can you come in? No, tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well, I've got the symphony. We better, let's not talk about playing music, but sometimes there are a couple symphonies on it. But it seems to work.
It does work. And I want to talk about kind of your journey through, we were talking about that a little bit at the beginning before the show went on with Big G and I here in studio, but you've had kind of an interesting journey through the radio world because you started more in physical therapy. Is that right? So then how did you make that transition here?
Yeah. Well, I clicked my heels and said,
there you go, Dorothy.
Yes, I worked hard. I have practiced physical therapy for a good 15 years. I as a kid, health-minded, liked my science and math, helping people, pretty much came from a medical family. So there were not a lot of other mentors in other fields, although I knew I always wanted to go into broadcasting. But stayed the course, lived in Savannah, Georgia, Raleigh, Durham for physical therapy, got involved in some theater.
Okay.
So there was that. And then moved, had a boyfriend break up with me, and then moved to Michigan. Yeah, it's
shame on him.
At that time. So then I like, let me get back to the Midwest, originally from southern Indiana, but my brother lived on the other side of the state, and it's like, let me move up closer to them. Got another PT job, and now we're in our late 30s, and ran a marathon, and kind of was a little, I don't want to say bored, but I didn't feel challenged. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go take a class in radio and TV or something. And obviously you just couldn't take a class, but there was a Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts that offered an 8-month program. And I did my reading of, who do I want to be when I grow up, and saw other DJs and talked to them and signed up, and the rest is history. It took 2.5 years.
So you said you always wanted to go into radio? That was always a goal?
Radio and TV.
Okay.
And I did, a lot of us wanted to be the news anchor.
Right.
I'm not there yet.
Well, you still got time.
But I knew I always wanted to, I always listened to the radio and listened to the Cincinnati Reds, and but just didn't go there. And when this opportunity came up, and Specs Howard offered a pretty easy, not easy, I still had to study, but fast track. I mean, you're already in front of a microphone on day 3, in a talk show TV opportunity, day 30. So I knew that's what I needed versus another 4-year degree.
Interesting. Well, you mentioned listening to the Reds. Did you ever consider going into the sports side of broadcasting?
Not seriously. I mean, now I interview a lot of, I don't want to say sports people, but authors, and myself being a triathlete, other sports directors. Even though I am where I am, #more to do, but that probably would have been a cool thing too. I always thought if I was a big high school basketball player, I'm like, where could I get an evening where I'm doing the gals team. Now I'm really spilling my secrets, but I don't have that experience.
Big G, I'm supposed to be the young one on the show, and I think that's the first hashtag that we've had on the show. #more to do from Shelley Shelley Irwin.
You said you always wanted to be in radio. What radio personality or DJ was your biggest influence in wanting to do that?
Back in Cincinnati, I was 13 and rode the bus every day. Jim, now I'm not going to remember his last name. It was a Cincinnati AM radio station, WSAI. Jim, he was a popular guy. Of course, now I can't remember his last name, and I will when I walk out. But and he would do a lot of community work and but he was always the DJ.
Was it Jim Scott?
Yep,
Shelley? Okay.
It.
Good old Jim Scott.
Thank you for that that background as we speak. I know what you can do behind that. That was it. I've never met him, and he would have no idea, but that was the voice that I listened to. And then of course listening to the Reds, Joe Nuxall, and that good group. But I never really, until I was older, listened to talk shows. Obviously Diane Rehm, Dave, who's the financial guru?
Oh, Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey.
Yep.
I listen to him a lot.
Okay.
And I know one thing. The lady who discovered Weight Watchers, Florine Max. I think she's passed. Her show would come on at like 6:30 in the morning on the radio, and I'm like, wow, they get up so early, and how that happens. Well, that's taped. It's like, I had no clue that was taped. Just like, wow, they go from guest to guest, and anyway, those are just little secrets now that we're speaking that have steered me right.
That's interesting. Well, yeah, and you do yours live though. That's why you would think it's live. You do yours live.
I do probably 80%.
Okay.
I don't want to say throw in a 5-minute tape, but I do 2 or 3. We were talking about Big G prepping before, so I will often, if there's a junket where they're pitching the president of the American Cancer Society at 7 in the morning, I'll tape that, and then I can present that in if I have an extra 5-minute block. Or say, Ryan, I get you in, you're like, I just can't make a 9 to 10. We'll come in at 8:30. We'll tape you, and I'm not gonna obviously say in the next interview's a tape. It's pretty seamless.
Well, when I only could go for 2 minutes and you cut me off, then you threw one of your taped guests there. Yeah. No, but we'll come back with Shelley because it's interesting to talk to her about this side. She's not used to being on this side of the microphone, and we do much longer form interviews. So I'm glad she's sitting still. She might run a few laps in the break here, but we'll come back.
There. I'm going to the line.
Yeah, exactly. We're right down the street from the YMCA, so she might run down there in the break. But otherwise, we'll have her come back and talk about her running career, because it's a very storied running career, and she's still at it, which I'm very impressed by. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Coming back in studio with Shelley Irwin, storied radio host here, venerable radio host. Not seasoned though. I'm not going to use that.
Okay, I didn't mind it, but I'll go with you on the story.
There we go. Yeah, I don't think seasoned is the right descriptor. What do you think, Big G? I'm not thinking seasoned.
Well, venerable wasn't that.
You don't think that's far off
either?
Well, that's good. I think that's accomplished. That doesn't mean you have to be old to be venerable.
Right. Sometimes, what is the incomparable?
There you go.
Sometimes I get that.
Okay.
Legendary.
Yeah.
I get the legendary.
Okay.
I kind of like legendary, although hashtag more to do.
There you go. Well, let's talk about what you've done and then what there is to do here, because one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, obviously we're a sports show, but we talk about a lot of different things, but you have a pretty impressive sports history. We talked about your running and joked about you running laps in the break, which you got a few in. I think you got around the building 3 or 4 times in the break, but you have accomplished a lot in your running career. You've represented the U.S. in long distance triathlons and duathlons, and I could not enroll in any of those. I once tried to run a marathon. I was close.
How do you try to run?
I mean, I wasn't really trying, I guess, to be honest.
Run a marathon?
I didn't run one. I was training for one, and I got up to 18 miles. But I wasn't close enough. People that say that 18 miles, if you can do that, you can do the marathon, I disagree, because after the 18 miles, I was not going anywhere except for to the nearest Philly cheesesteak shop, which is where I went after that 18-mile run, which is maybe why I didn't make it to 26.
There will be a marathon one day for you, so you can just.
Well, how many? Do you have a tally of how many you've run? Marathons, triathlons, races.
You know, I wish I had an answer. I don't. I mean, I can count. I mean, I've done probably 7 marathons. With
Okay.
The Indianapolis coming up in November. I did L.A., New York, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Chicago. So I've done a lot of the bigger ones, because the bigger ones get you through, because the people are clapping for you at mile 21. I've done half irons, which usually take about seven half hours, which is the swim, bike, run. Not a full iron, but the half irons. Memphis and Traverse City, Frankfurt a couple times, Steelhead. So I can count on. But my sweet spot is somewhat the half marathons.
Okay.
Which I've done many, and I'll go to the most fun were international. So about it's probably been 5-7 years ago, we had a kind of a running group, bunch of friends, all at that point in our 50s, and we would go internationally and run a half marathon. Ireland, Iceland, Jamaica, Vancouver, probably a couple more in there, and that was kind of fun. We ran the marathon. We couldn't wait to run the marathon, and then we could go play. But so that was an adventure. And then of late, just a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks, but they're all experiences, Ryan. And Big G. I ran the University of Michigan 5K where you finish in the stadium. The MSU where you finish in the stadium. So those have been kind of fun lately, and they're over in less than 30 minutes.
That I was going to say, that's a quick run for you if you're just doing a 5K.
No nachos allowed after that.
Well, so you have your own run now, right? Do you do your own run? You should have one.
Okay, yes, but let's preface it as I am an employee of WGVU,
of course,
public media. So, but a couple in WGVU is a fundraiser. We are a nonprofit, and we're now 100% community funded with all the history, which we don't want to get into. But they somehow in the behind the scenes said, well, Shelley Irwin is kind of a brand. What does she do? Who does she know? Well, she runs a lot. So let's have a Shelley Irwin fun run and charge those who walk, run, and skip and hop $35 and come join us once a weekend in April.
So if it's the Shelley Irwin Fun Run, does everybody dress up as Shelley Irwin? Is that how that goes? You could have thousands of Shelley Irwins.
How would that happen? But no, probably not, with the exception of I would certainly wear my tennis shoes if I was going to run. So yes, so they put this together. Last year was an inaugural year. It was very successful. It probably had about 230 walkers, runners. Again, it was not a timed run, so that took a little of that stress out. Dogs were invited, kids were invited. We had the second annual. First year you got a T-shirt. Second year you got a trucker's hat, and that was successful. A nicer day, and we have a date for the third annual. So there's job security.
Perfect. And then what do you get then? Shorts? You need to keep the outfit going. You got a trucker hat and a shirt.
Okay. We're going to go back to T-shirts.
Oh, we're back to T-shirts.
Yeah,
okay.
We had a little survey. The hats were nice, but I mean, I'm not even wearing my hats. Let's get the shirt back on. But it is all for health and wellness. And I guess, yes, using my brand. And we have, I had Elvis on the course. We had drummers. We had all kinds of mascots. So the goal was health and wellness and community, and that's where we're going. That was described as fun and happy, and a charcuterie afterwards.
Wow!
No bagels allowed.
That's fancy. Yeah, that's not my Philly cheesesteak post run here. Yeah, charcuterie. That's pretty fancy.
So April 24th, we'll see Big G out there and
yes.
Ryan out there. And,
you want to run together?
And you don't have to run. You can just walk 2 miles if you want.
I'm glad, because if I had to run, my check engine light would be on after 50 feet.
You want? Can we? Shelley said we can skip. Do you want to skip together?
Big G, you have a whole year to train.
Yeah, just work on your skipping.
Less than a year.
No to the skipping.
I'm not seeing.
I think that's. You think that's a no?
But I also like challenges too, so we could work something out big time. April 24th, 2027.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that. It is very cool because we talk about this a lot on the show, but for those that aren't as involved in sports, or the sports content doesn't really apply to them, we always talk about the meaning of sports and what it does. It brings people together, like you said, gets people healthy. There's a lot of reasons to do sport other than, hey, I just like watching the Lions play football or whatever, which we have a lot of those types of fans listening to the show, which we're happy. But it's nice to be able to participate and get out there and do any of those things: hop, skip, or jump, or run.
It really is. This community is full of these opportunities to attend a race and see people or to become a member of a team, and or one of the wonderful organizations we have is called My Team Triumph.
Okay.
Where we have captains and angels, and your captains are those seated in wheelchairs that are unable to normally walk, and then the angels are the athletes who push.
Nice.
That camaraderie is really neat to see. They're always looking for new angels and obviously new captains and chairs, but that's a family that's always good to see there.
That's a great codicil of that group there, because we used to do a lot of coverage of adaptive sports on this show. Mary Freebed and the work they do, West Michigan Sports Commission, they've got some good stuff coming up, but it's always worth covering that and worth helping. That's great that you can have people pushing them and helping them, because that would be probably the most fulfilling a race could be, if you're behind somebody else helping them cross that finish line for the first time.
Yep, and they do that for triathlons. I had not done that because I haven't been called to that, but you have to pull, the captain's in the buoy behind, so you have to swim with pulling a buoy. So that's exceptional. That's a lot of, you've got to train extra to be able to do those types of things too. You're not quite there yet, Ryan.
No, I've got to train some more. I've got to get, Big G and I are going to get in the gym, right, Big G?
April 24th.
We'll be ready by then, maybe. But it'd be great to do that, and especially that captain part, the pushing people along and all of that.
That's the angel part.
Angel part,
yeah,
yes.
You're the angel.
I'm the angel, and then the captain's
is
in the chair. Okay, perfect. Either one. Yeah, the captain. That's a great experience. I'm glad that's part of the race. I didn't realize that. But we're gonna bring Shelley back for one more segment here, I think, if she can. Because we might as well
Dogs are
take
fed, I've
advantage.
worked out.
Perfect. Okay. She was here a little early and we just decided to bring her on air, but she's doing such a great job. And I want to leave less time that Big G has to deal with me by myself. So we're going to have a buffer of Shelley Irwin for one more segment. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Coming back here with a bonus segment with Shelley Irwin, radio host. I forget what we decided on for the lead in. Impressive. What did we decide on for her adjective, Big G?
How about fantastic?
Fantastic. That'll work.
Wow, I don't know.
That'll work.
Wow, where's the room for improvement?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about with you in the last segment. You keep saying hashtag more to do. What is there left to do? What are we doing with our more to do here?
Wow. Well, there are dishes in the sink, and my grass needs cut. That is a good question, because I guess more to do or keep doing the same. I mean, they always say there's a book in you. No, I haven't started that. I'm not quite sure what that would entail, but that might be kind of a fun next thing. I think I'm going back to Worlds for another duathlon next year.
Nice.
I think I've got another marathon in me. Again, every day is so different and so full at WGVU that it's, but yet I'm still looking for where else can I take my roving mic? Who else can I interview? What else could I possibly do in the evening? How else can I?
Oh, no. Please finish your thought. I had a question, but finish your thought.
Oh, okay. See, that's why I wanted to come in, so I could get all the eye contact thing going on here. So I guess it's endless what can happen as far as just getting involved and more.
You're talking about interviews. Is there one interview that you've done that maybe sticks out as like extra excellent or special or something that you just can't forget, or anything like that?
Yep. Besides Ryan Walsh?
That's at the low end, I think, Big G. That's at the very low end. That's
you said it, not me.
yeah. Well, I said it before you could.
Yeah. Remember, I've done theater, so I can bring that up. There was one situation where it's probably been 5 to 10 years. There was a playground incident where a child murdered another child. If you want to go there, and obviously that was an awful story. But the grandmother of the child that was murdered wrote a book. Evidently, she did all the forgiving and became friends through the healing process of the other gentleman. I had her in studio, and it was just the grandmother of the little boy that was killed, and that was just hard to talk to. And then the other on the phone, I had one of the mothers of the Columbine kids. And I know that was a while ago, and I think that was kind of hard can't remember why that there was a book or, why I was fortunate to interview, but that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe so I get, I have a nice variety. I don't, and then Diane Rehm, she was a longtime NPR voice, still doing things, obviously, but she was in the studio across from me. So that was it's like, oh, I can't believe I'm interviewing Diane Rehm. She said, when you're in D.C., come visit me. And I was there 3 weeks later.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, that has to be such a tough transition because, like you said earlier in the interview, you do some lighter things around town. But, yeah, you've got to kind of match the moment of those different interviews, especially with ones that are so heavy-hearted like the ones that you mentioned. So, yeah, it's a tough exchange when you have to go through that, but you have to kind of live in that emotional palette of being able to be anywhere from, hey, happy go lucky, promoting the community, let's go, let's run, let's have the fun run, to these heavy subject matters that are important to get out to the people too.
Just like we're doing here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that hour show is most likely an hour live where you have to be on, you have to listen, and you have to go with your topic.
So you're doing the duathlon again for the Worlds here. That's one of the next things. What's the distance on that?
That will be a shorter distance. There is a qualification process that you have to go through. And there was the qualification in South Haven that took place about a month ago. Now, between you and me, oftentimes it's who shows up that gets you qualified. I mean, obviously we did okay, but they take the top 18 in your age group, and there's a roll down. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
You need 18 in your group.
Right.
If you don't have 18, you might qualify.
Oh, okay. So I think she's encouraging us to sign up.
Yes.
Here, Big G, should we sign up? He's very slow to the mic on this one.
You are just gonna get me killed
April
one of these
24th,
days.
5K.
She's advertising it. We got to support our friend Shelley.
Absolutely, I know.
But that'll be great. And yes, you do have to seek out these qualifications, and that will most likely be next July in Edmonton, Canada.
Nice. Okay. Now we've alluded to it a couple times. I got to ask you about the theater thing. What that you perked up. So I'm glad that this is maybe the right question here, but I wasn't familiar with your theater background. I can kind of tell, I understand that, but how did you get into that? And you're still going on the theater side?
Junior high, got a little Best Actress award. I'm not sure where that came from, with the exception of, again, this is why I'm maybe doing the radio and the TV too, because it is a cool stage. But I did a lot in junior high. We didn't have it in high school. Then, went to school and took a couple acting 101 classes, and then cut to the chase. Got back on stage in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, where you could. Moved here. Did a civic show, Diary of Anne Frank. Did Jewish theater. Did Circle Theater 2-person show. That 2-person 2-act. That was intense.
Wow.
And then lastly, I just did an actors theater. Oh, I had to say a bad word.
Uh-oh.
So, but it was a wonderful experience.
So, what was your favorite production or your favorite role that you were a part of?
Well, they're so different that it just depends on which character. I mean, you can't beat a 2-person where you're kind of you're carrying a lot of that. It was called the gin game.
Okay.
And this was unfortunately was just after COVID, so we had to wear masks, and they had to limit the audience, and that was just kind of a little stress, but that just stretched me enough in that I had to work with my character. We were in a assisted living home, and fell in love and fell out of love, and it was just interesting. So I guess that's one of my favorite, because I knew I had a heavy responsibility. But Diary of Anne Frank was tough because that we know what that dealt with.
Right.
And I played
Subject
Miep,
matter.
the helper, the Dutch helper. So.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, she's literally running circles around us, Big G. She's doing all of these things, and there's hashtag more to do. But tell us where we can follow all of the things that you have going on. You talked about the fun run, but hit that one more time, and then obviously the show and all of the great things that you're working on here.
Sure, and thank you. WGVU.org is basically where you're going to find the grassroots of Shelley Irwin Show, Kalamazoo Lively Arts, Living West Michigan, and our other fine productions. I'm all over. I'm still pretty Facebook heavy, so if you go to the Shelley Irwin Show on Facebook, we post all of our interviews in podcast form, and then I have a personal Shelley Irwin page. Although I think I'm limited on my friends. I've exceeded the maximum, so I'll have to delete a couple. Oops.
She literally has too many friends, Big G. That doesn't surprise me after sitting with her and knowing her for a while and all of that. But we appreciate you coming in and spending so much time with us. Hopefully it moved pretty quickly, even though it's almost the length of your show that we've had you on here.
That is crazy.
One
Well,
guest.
I kind of stormed in early, so thanks for letting me hang out.
We're glad you did. Then you picked the thing of the day for us. So now we'll be asking Adam and Blake what their favorite fudge is in ode to you. And I think peanut butter fudge is going to be. I think that's going to be a popular choice. That would be one of mine as well. So, but no, we're happy you could join us. Thank you for all that you do for the community and for coming in and chatting with us. And hopefully this won't be the last time here.
No, this is wonderful. Thank you for you and what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. We enjoyed having you.
Now Big G's going to be stuck with me for the rest of the show. He's not going to have a real radio host in the studio, but we're happy to have Shelley, and we're going to bring on Adam Jaksa. He's the voice of the Chippewas at Central Michigan University, and he's also the Lansing Lugnuts host here. And we'll talk to him about the upcoming Whitecap series and his career after the break. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Happy to bring on this next guest. We've got a broadcasting theme here, which I'm happy about. We had radio host Shelley Irwin. Now we've got voice of the Chippewas and a bunch of other things. I'm always amazed how many hats these broadcasting guys wear. I think they don't get enough credit for the amount of hats that they wear. But this is Adam Jaksa, voice of the Chippewas, and we like to celebrate the National Day here, Adam. And tomorrow is National Fudge Day. So I'm curious what your favorite flavor of fudge is.
You know what? I have not been to Mackinac to try out the fudges, so I don't feel like I can give an honest answer here of what my favorite is. Is that a total lame cop-out response to what what you just asked?
Well, it's not. I do like the random answers. We've had some delightfully random answers, so it's like you can, it's kind of it's like a choose your own adventure. You can go any direction with it that you want. But I have a backup for you that I think you're going to like, although if you choose something other than the Chippewas, you might get in trouble, I guess. But it's also going to be National Mascot Day on Wednesday, and that was one of the ones we were debating. So do you have a favorite mascot?
I mean, it's Big Lug. He's the greatest mascot in all of minor league baseball. I know that's not college-based, but Big Lug, the Purple River Dragon, by far, been around since 1996. He's turning 30 this year. He is iconic here in the state of Michigan.
Okay, so tell me about this, because he's the Purple River Dragon. Is there a copyright infringement thing with the moon mammoths? Because that seems kind of overlapping from Erie, where they changed to being the moon mammoths.
Yeah, I don't know. That whole thing came up so quick with him, and it was only for one game with John Oliver, I guess. And since he's purple, there might be something. There might be something, because we all know that Big Lug is the OG. He is your friendly river dragon that patrols the garage just off the Grand River is what I call Jackson Field, right there in downtown Lansing. But we love him. And just minor league baseball in general. It seems like every single year we get some new weird name, some new weird mascot, and I feel like that's part of the minor league baseball experience.
It is. I love how delightfully random it is. And I like the idea of thinking that the moon mammoth is just part of the cinematic universe with the Lugnuts mascot as well, that they're existing in the same realm, that they're in the sea together, and they're going to have a buddy cop show here later on.
We're going to see a movie in the MCU coming out in a couple of years where they are both featured, probably.
Exactly. I think they're franchise players there. Well, it's funny, because the reason I thought of the moon mammoth is I think we were one of the leaders in moon mammoth coverage, because I'm friends with Greg Gagne, and he came on the show and actually he didn't announce it on the show, but he was very close to the interview with Oliver and getting that all settled, and kind of previewed it on the show. But it is kind of funny how much of a flurry that made last year here, and I think they're continuing it this year with the crew out there. But we don't have to worry about the moon mammoths. We've got to worry about the Lugnuts here, because one of the reasons that we wanted to have Adam on, beyond just wanting to talk to him, is we wanted to do our first counter intel segment for the Whitecaps. We normally do this for football. We've done it for some of the other sports, but we've never done it for minor league baseball. And so we've got to scout these Lugnuts that are coming into town with their purple potential dragon future MCU character.
Yeah, no, and we're riding high right now because, we hadn't beat West Michigan in a series in 4 years until West Michigan came in a couple of weeks ago. The Whitecaps had kind of given it to us the last few seasons, but Lansing's now won 4 straight series at home. They won again against Cedar Rapids, thumped them in 4 of the 5 games this past week. And, I mean, Lansing has struggled on the road, so I'm interested. We haven't been out to LMCU Ballpark. So we're always excited to go out, in this 5-year plan, what the new ballpark looks like, what the new upgrades are as they continue to build that thing up and see our guy, Jim Jarecki and Dan Hasty out there. But, yeah, the starting pitching's been great for Lansing. We just had the Midwest League Pitcher of the Week, Ryan Magdeach, that actually just got promoted to Midland, so he won't be part of the rotation. But, they've had guys that have had nice seasons offensively, and their starting pitching has been the best part, and that starting pitching was a huge reason why they took 4 of 6 against the Whitecaps the first time around just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, tell us about some of the players to look out for on this team for the folks that are coming down to the park to see you guys this week.
Yeah, no doubt. So we actually, Devin Taylor was our second rounder, I believe, last year. He just got elevated last week. So when he got moved up, and he was Indiana's all-time home run leader. He had been with us all season, started every game, just got bumped up to Double-A. Casey Yamauchi, who was primarily our leadoff hitter, been with Lansing for 3 or 4 years. He just got bumped up at the same time. So then they brought in a couple of new faces. Carlos Pacheco just came back to us this week. He's been our leadoff guy, or he's batted second. He hit home runs this week. He stole like 7 or 8 bases. I mean, he set the tone for our offense this week against Cedar Rapids. And this was a guy that was up in Midland that came back down to Lansing. We saw him a little bit at the end of last year. He played 17 or 18 games for us. So he was red hot this week, and that was something we just didn't know what to expect because we hadn't seen him this year. And then the other one that's really heating up right now is Ali Camarillo. He's Texas A&M Aggie, and we've got a couple of those. Nathan Detmer, who's actually going to start tomorrow, is also an Aggie. But Camarillo has been great offensively going back to the last few weeks, Lake County, and then we played the Loons just most recently last week, and then Cedar Rapids this past week. So Camarillo's hit a couple of home runs, but he is, if you need a double, Ali Camarillo is the guy to come through, and he was able to get that. He had multiple doubles this week again. So those two guys taking care of business, and then it's been our starters. Like I said, like Nathan Detmer is going to start, I believe, tomorrow, and then he's also going to start on Sunday for us. He has been outstanding, just consistent since he moved up from Stockton, our high A affiliate team. Steven Echeverria, this is crazy. He is a veteran at just 20 years old in the Midwest League. He was in the Midwest League last year at just 19 years old. Got a year as a highly signed third-round draft pick out of high school to experience the Midwest League, which is a tough league, obviously, with all the talent. But he's grown from that last year and now is starting every week. This week for Lansing, he's had really good stuff. Great slider for Etch. Samuel Dutton is he just seems like he keeps getting better and better. Another starting pitcher for us, a right-hander that I believe he's expected to start on Thursday this week. And then Mr. Taylor for us that we got in the 5th round this past year, he's another starter that has been lights out. So, I mean, you're talking about a starting rotation that, for the most part, Lansing gets off to good starts in all of these games. Now, the bullpen has been shaky, and the bats have kind of jumped around because the A's, ever since Lansing has been an affiliate with them in 2021, they jump guys up pretty quick. With a lot of their roster right now at the major league level, it's former Lugnuts within the last couple of years. So Lansing hasn't made the playoffs yet. They're not going to make it in this first half. And as we know, the first half will restart on Friday. So that'll be something that they'll be shooting for here in the second half to try and get to the playoffs for the first time since 2019.
That is a great breakdown of the Lugnuts. We were talking about this with our first guest who is in radio and has been in it for a long time, but I was telling her, she was asking who our next guest was going to be, and I was saying, well, it's the play-by-play guy for the Lugnuts. We're going to talk about them, and he also does the Chippewas. I said the amount of knowledge that these guys have to take in to do the game the way that they do is underrated because you're so focused. Yeah, you're calling the balls and strikes. You're doing the regular reset the count, all of that stuff. But you have to have such a wide knowledge to do the game. That's one of the reasons why we like talking to you guys, because it shows how much knowledge you have, because you can't always get it out during the game.
Yeah, it's really, I love baseball too because it's challenge, right? Like you're doing 132 games. You can't just regurgitate the same information over and over again about these guys. So you're trying to find new ways to tell their story. You're trying to have just new ideas to come up with, like Jesse and I, we have the fishbowl that I think a lot of our broadcast friends know about in the Midwest League, that we literally have anybody and everybody throw in a slip of paper with a question or a topic. And we've had the last couple of years, but this year we go to it every time we make a pitching change. Whether West Michigan or Lansing makes a pitching change this week, we go to it, and it just sparks the most random conversation. Like, we stay in the game, obviously keep you what's going on, but like if there's a dull moment especially, we've got random questions that come up from people that have submitted into the fishbowl, and it always keeps the broadcast lighthearted. But yeah, we also have the information that you're prepping for the guys and the teams and the storylines, and we love, again, I love going to LMCU ballpark and talking about the new updates to that park. Like last year when we were there, they had just moved the walls in a little bit from, I believe it was right and left field, so it's not as crazy as a graveyard to try and hit home runs there. I still believe it's the biggest flagpole in all of minor league baseball out there in center with the giant American flag. I mean, I love the hand-operated scoreboard out and left. Like, there's just unique things about all of these cities that we go and visit and all of these ballparks that we play in. So there's a lot to talk about on top of just the guys and each team and the storylines going into it.
Do you think that's what Jim is going for with that massive foul pole? He's going for like the world's largest asparagus stalk, but he's doing the foul pole instead, so everybody comes and gathers there?
I mean, you got to lean into it, right? Like, you have to. I mean, you can't miss it out there. And yeah, I would say so. Like, now one time Jesse and I remember, because these parks, I mean, the wind, when you're spending the entire summer months, from April until September at these parks, you get some dastardly weather that comes in there, whether it's sleeting or it's raining or it's just absolutely abusive wind. And it was a couple years ago that it was so windy, even that flagpole, the American flag, fell down from, which Jesse, my radio partner, and I were just absolutely astounded with how big that thing is and how just unfazed it always looks like. Nothing's going to be able to touch it, and the wind whipped the American flag off of it. It's just like, welcome to the Midwest League and the Midwest part of the country, where you just never know what the weather's going to be like.
Well, I like that you're talking about the art of broadcasting, as far as, I think this is underrated, because this is a conversation we've had with Greg Gagne and others. It's specifically about Jason Benetti, but it's centered around other people as well. I think people don't understand kind of the nuance that goes into, there's a lot of classic fans of the game that'll say, oh, well, just call the balls and strikes and just go into that. It's like, that's not what the modern fan is interested in. They want you to have the fishbowl and pull out the scrap of paper and be entertaining during the game like that, or wear the hats like you guys wear, or open a pack of cards. That's one of my favorites, because that's I'm a sports memorabilia guy, so that's a good gimmick for me. But I don't think people understand, hey, this is supposed to be like, if you want just the balls and strikes, you can get that from anywhere. You can see that, because a lot of times the games are simulcast on MLB or what have you. You don't need that. You need the game to be fun. You need it to be an experience, and you guys help make it an experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget we are entertainers at the end of the day. Like, yes, we are there to call baseball, but we are also, like, you watch a baseball game on mute, and then you watch a baseball game with somebody that is talking about what is happening. The person or the people that are talking about it need to make that more interesting. Like, it's like being the caption at the bottom of the screen. Like, we are adding to what you are seeing, and we're hoping that by doing that, you are more interested in what you're watching. So, of course, we're going to talk about the game and the players and everything that goes into the big moments that are going to dictate that baseball game. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, I don't have that desire to just be in a box like every other regular broadcaster that goes and calls a game. I want to be innovative. I want to be creative. I want people to hopefully just take something away from our game and remember it and be like, hey, remember this part in the 7th inning? Like, that was unique or that was creative. I mean, Ryan, we were playing a game on Saturday, and it was, I usually do innings 3, 4, 7, and 8 for play-by-play with Jesse doing the other ones. And we had a couple of guests, so I ended up doing the back half of that game. I did innings 6 through 9, and I took over play-by-play when we were down 23-4. We ended up losing 23-15, and we had one of our sales guys on, and he goes, you guys just hate games like this where you're like, what are you supposed to talk about? And you got to get through it. And it's like, no, we relish these games. Like, yes, obviously we always want a close game. That's any sports fan's dream. You want to see a good game, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, whatever sport you're watching. But when you get those games, like, you need to come up with ways to keep the attention of the listener or the viewer. Like, that is your responsibility as the broadcaster. And that's something that I really appreciate about baseball, that, like, I call basketball, I call football, and those sports move so quick. Baseball, you actually have the downtime to be able to talk to your partner and have some side conversations in between the game and everything you're talking about to just give it a little bit more flavor for people to relax. And I think that's why a lot of people just enjoy, going outside and turning on their phone and listening to a baseball game rather than, just sitting there in silence.
When people ask me my favorite show on TV right now, it has transitioned. It used to be Inside the NBA. I still like it, but the format's changed a little bit since they moved to ESPN. Now it's the rain delay questions segment that Jason Benetti does on TV. That's because it's basically what you're talking about. It's having to turn. I mean, they didn't necessarily have to do that. I think a lot of networks will just put on some canned pre-programming, but they turned it into like a must-watch segment. When MLB TV cuts that from the broadcast and I watch it a day later and realize, oh shoot, I missed a rain delay. That means I missed like 30 minutes of rain delay questions. I'm disappointed that I missed inherently the most boring part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, because it's interactive. It's like where you can open up and be the most human. Like a couple people might go, wow, Jason Benetti had a great home run call last night in the 3rd inning, or if he has a walk-off call, right? Like, it's probably a walk-off that's going to get that. But when you go back and you're like, what did I remember about the broadcast? You're going to remember something stupid about how he was doing, whatever, answering a question and telling you what his favorite song to sing karaoke was. I think they did that recently on the rain delay questions. And it's like, yeah, okay, you're going to remember that more than like, yeah, he called this double like so precisely, or he called this diving catch to bet. Like, yes, you need to do that. You need to have those fundamentals. But like, people remember the stuff that is more human interest and they can relate to. And I think certainly all the Michiganders, if you hadn't watched Jason Benetti before, like, you're seeing that now with the opportunity to watch him all summer. And I think that's the other unique thing about baseball. Basketball and football, there's games every week or there's games every couple of days, like, not like baseball. Like, baseball, you start at the end of March, or maybe you're a crazy fan and you tune into all the spring training games too. And you are watching from like February until September, and you are with the same crew and the same broadcasters every single night. It just becomes ritual, and it becomes like they're a buddy of yours, or they're like a family member, because they are speaking with you about the team you love every single night. And there's that bond, and that's part of the draws to being a baseball broadcaster, of just having that connection with the fans about a sport that you absolutely love.
Well said. And I will say that before they did that segment about the karaoke, we had Zach Linfield on the show, Tigers public address announcer, and I asked him his favorite karaoke song when he was on the show. So I'm not saying there's causation or correlation, but hey, we were ahead of the trend. But it was the National Day topic for when he was on. But we got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back with Adam Jaksa. Great conversation with him so far. Want to talk to him about the co-play-by-play duties that he was talking about, and we got to talk his Chippewas a little bit as well. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM.
From the GarbarinoRoofs.com studios.
Country with a twist. Jethro FM. 1530 AM. WYGR Wyoming Grand Rapids. 94.9 FM Grand Rapids. 99.5 FM Lowell. And Jethro South. 980 AM WAKV Otsego Plainwell. 98.9 FM Otsego. And 105.1 FM Kalamazoo. Available worldwide at jethro.fm.
Coming back here with Adam Jaksa, the voice of the Lugnuts and the Chippewas, and probably a bunch of other things here, depending on the day. But I'm curious, Adam, because you were talking about kind of the handoff that you do, because there's all different formats. I follow a lot of minor league baseball because I talk to a lot of the play-by-play folks there, and I like to see their work. And what you do something interesting. There's some folks like we talked to Zach Serdenik, who's with Erie now, and I know he does a lot of the games by himself where he has to do everything, and he's just talking for basically 3 straight hours. You have an interesting format because you switch back and forth, as you talked about, with your partner, Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, and you have to kind of alternate. I'm curious how that works and how you guys kind of program that in.
Yeah, it's real typical I guess if you were to listen to half Major League Baseball, I think still does it, where you have 2 play-by-play guys. And I think it is, if you're a Tigers fan and you're listening on the radio, it is unique to do what Dan Dickerson does. Like, he just does all 9 innings, and he doesn't have a number 2. He's just got color commentators. But still, a lot of baseball will be 2 play-by-play guys where you switch off so that you both can do a couple of half innings. And Jesse Goldberg-Strasser has been the voice of the Nuts since 2009, and I came in and started doing games with him in 2019. So he's been really great to me. I mean, he works up at Central Michigan. He always makes the joke, I'm his boss at Central Michigan, and he's my boss at Lansing, because he does women's basketball for us on the radio, and then I, of course, come and do Lugnuts with him in the summer. So, yeah, he does innings 1, 2, 5, 6, and 9. And then I do 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. And again, that's unique because most number 2s only get 3 play-by-play innings, but he's been super gracious with me, and because I have more experience, he allows me to do 4 innings. So yeah, when he's on play-by-play, I'm doing color. And he was actually explaining it to a shadow that we had for Sunday's game that unfortunately got postponed and canceled because of rain, about when he's on play-by-play, he's kind of steering the ship, and we're going to talk about what he wants to talk about, and then I'm going to do color and have the conversation with him, and then it flips. When I come up for the 3rd and the 4th, we're talking about whatever I want to talk about, and he is playing off of me with our great conversation, our great dialogue that we have. And I need somebody to research this, so if you are bored one day, I don't think there is a longer-running broadcast duo in all of minor league baseball, 2 play-by-play guys longer than Jesse and I have been together. It's just not common. You get it more in Major League Baseball, and I know that there's some play-by-play guys that have long-time color commentators with them, but to have 2 play-by-play guys stick together for this long and be able to spend every single day in the summer together, it really shows like the person that Jesse is, being able to be around him. He's super humble, hardworking, passionate, positive guy. And I mean, you understand, if you get around somebody that you don't like and you're spending that much time with them, it can be really hard to do the job. And I'm really proud of the fact that him and I have been able to stay together for so long. We're still so giddy to go to the ballpark. We still really enjoy working together, or at least I enjoy it with him. Maybe he might say something different to you, but it is really cool, just the rapport that we've been able to build, and not just with each other, but the fans and the front office at Lansing. They've been really good to us, and people have to our knowledge, enjoyed our broadcasts, and we hear from the parents and everything that come in when the Lugnuts come in to be able to listen to our games and get to meet everybody. So it is a really cool connection, the bond that I've been able to build with him in Lansing.
It is important for the continuity between you two and the idea that, yeah, I mean, you do have two people that are kind of used to driving the boat, so to speak, and driving the car, and you're not always used to being the passenger, but there's something to learn by being the passenger too. And so you get to do that. You get to flex into the analyst role and not always do the play-by-play thing. I think that's good kind of cross-training for the folks because, yeah, I am used to the Detroit calls, which are, it was Dickerson and Harwell before him. I grew up in kind of that era. And then obviously on TV, you've got Benetti and then there are others before them. But, yeah, you're used to that singular voice, but I like the idea of the rotation, and I think it probably strengthens both of you guys. And like you said, that bond is so key because although the margins aren't that visible to the regular fan because you just have to pretend if you're not very close, and I've seen some of those situations kind of take place in, all over in sports, and you have to kind of just make it through, but it's so much easier if you actually have that bond and that chemistry with your partner.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I work with a good amount of play-by-play students at Central Michigan, so it's been like a nice full circle of like remembering what I struggled with when I started and then seeing some of that in them as well. And one of the things, Ryan, I don't know if you've done play-by-play before, but one of the things I absolutely struggled with was you are so focused on trying to say the next thing out of your mouth so perfectly that sometimes you completely block out like what the other person, your color commentator, is saying. And you can tell it's like one person talks and there's like a wall, and then the other person talks and then there's a wall, and then you're talking. And it's like to get that natural conversational dialogue, like working with a partner every single night, that really helps with that rapport of just, hey, I'm not going to call a baseball game for 9 innings by myself. I'm going to do it with somebody else. And I always use the analogy of like, you are an Uber driver and your passenger picks that they want a talkative Uber driver. So yes, you need to steer the car and get them to where they want to go, right? You need to get the nuts and bolts of the play-by-play and tell us every pitch, what is happening. But then you also need to entertain your guest. You need to entertain your color commentator that's working with you and making sure that you're listening to them. Focus on the road, but also stay in conversation with the person that is riding in the car with you. And I think that, and working with my students is something that is really hard when you're starting out. Of play-by-play is hard enough, like having the description words and making sure you're doing everything right to describe what's happening, but then also having your partner and making that interesting and a normal conversation. Like there's a lot that goes into that. And it's just, it's something to me when I hear, whether it's a Jason Benetti or an Ian Eagle or a Dan Schulman, somebody that's really good, Kevin Kugler that's working off their partner, like there's a noticeable difference to me when I hear that. And that's always what I'm striving to be on the air as well.
Well, you've been doing a great job at it, and we appreciate you kind of breaking it down. I always like this side of it because I don't think there's enough talk about it. It's the same reason we have a lot of beat writers on, because we had this conversation last Thursday about nobody ever reads the byline. And it's same with the commentator. They don't always know who the voice is that they're listening to, and I think that's a shame. I think they should understand that a little bit better because of the work and the masterpiece that it is when guys like you and others, some of the others that you mentioned, are doing it. So we appreciate you coming in and previewing the series and talking things through with us, and we'll look forward to following everything. But make sure to tell people where they can follow you here with all the hats you wear.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and really excited to come out to West Michigan this week. My handle is the same on everything, at Adam Jaksa, Jaksa is the last name, and that's Twitter, that's Instagram, and that's also TikTok. So come on and get some CMU stuff, get some Lugnut stuff, and whatever sports talk. We're talking World Cup. World Cup's been fun to follow. So anything and more sports, would love to have anybody follow along and come say hi.
Yeah, definitely check him out. Listen to the broadcast and check him out in all those locations. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a good series this week. We'll be looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Adam. Talk to you later. Thanks to Adam Jaksa. Appreciate him coming on. Great conversation about the upcoming series and everything going on in the commentating world. We're going to kind of stay in commentating to a degree because we're going to have Blake Silverman on of the Pistons Pin Down podcast. That's an alliterative nightmare there. But we're going to have him on and talk about a recent article he did about broadcasting, as well as the Pistons and the NBA Finals and everything going on in basketball here. So stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Happy to get this next guest on here of the Pistons Pin Down podcast. That's an alliterative nightmare, I said before the break, Blake here. But no, I'm happy to have him on. He also works for Sports Illustrated, and we have a very commentating oriented theme here today, and I want to talk about one of the recent articles that he wrote on commentating. But happy to welcome in Blake Silverman, friend of the show. Blake, I hope you're feeling better, and I'm curious if there is a favorite fudge flavor for Blake Silverman, because it's National Fudge Day tomorrow here, so we're celebrating that today.
I didn't even know that. I feel like I'm probably a boring fudge guy because I think my favorite flavor is just chocolate. I feel like you can't beat that. Big fan. I grew up going to Charlevoix in the summers, and that's just like a hot spot for fudge outside of like Traverse City and Mackinac Island and everything. So I'll have to find a way to celebrate.
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, you can't beat the classic. There's a reason that it was the go-to from the beginning. But yeah, we had the days today weren't very good. So we had Lobster Day. I can't do anything with seafood. I don't eat seafood, so we had to go with that. And but yeah, that's a classic pick. That's a good pick. But we're happy to have you on here because there's really a lot going on in the basketball world. Obviously, the finals just concluded, and I've got your articles up right now, and you have been busy here over the finals time frame. So what sticks out to you with the NBA Finals concluding here, with the Knicks finally getting over the hump for the first time in a while?
Man, I mean, I actually, I mean, obviously living in Michigan and following the Pistons closely, obviously if you said that the Knicks would finally get it done, I think it wouldn't have been the most fun postseason to watch, but I really enjoyed watching them. I mean, they had an absolutely historic run through the postseason, that 13-game winning streak. They go like 13-1 after they fall behind 2-1 to Atlanta in the first round. And even though the finals was only 5 games, I thought it was one of the better finals series we had, just with all the comebacks and crazy moments. I mean, I think OG Anunoby's tip, it was instantly one of the best moments in finals history. So that game definitely stands out. And then you have Brunson, what he did with 45 points, and the Knicks in another comeback. But overall, I'm happy for them. I mean, I think it was incredible to watch both the team and just the city, all the noise around it and all the celebrations. I had a really fun time with it, even though it was the Knicks who came out on top in the end.
Well, they do have kind of I know some of the people in the Detroit area are not going to be a fan of this statement, but between Brunson and some of the other guys on the team, Anunoby, I'm an Indiana guy, so I've been following him since college, but they do have kind of some likable players as far as just hardworking players that finally got a chance to get over the hump. Josh Hart, I've been a fan of his for a long time. They just have, and Pistons fans can take something out of that, really, because it is the type of team, the construction is similar to, I think, what the Pistons aspire to, as far as it's built around two-way players, that there's one star. Yes, there's Cat in the mix for them, but one primary star, and then you build these these two-way wings and, dynamic secondary players around him. And now we see that this worked even against the probably what's becoming the most singular star in the NBA. Yes, he's very young, but Wemby is already kind of ascending to that level. That is a good blueprint for the Pistons to potentially follow, because I know, lest we forget, they weren't really that far off. If things would have broken differently, it would have been interesting to see. They were obviously one game short. I don't think they beat the Knicks, but a few things break another way, and this could be them in the near future.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, either whoever came out of the Detroit-Cleveland series was likely just at a disadvantage, because both those teams played 2 7-game series in a row, and you have the Knicks who were cruising and come off a sweep of the 76ers. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, but I think that the Pistons would have found a way to at least take one, likely at least 2 games against the Knicks. So I think they would have made that series a bit interesting. And yeah, like you said about the team building, I mean, the Knicks, you see them build their entire roster through free agency and trade. So it's pretty interesting. It just says that you can build a title team in a number of which ways. There's no really right way to do it, because you can do it so many different ways. I think Brunson definitely separated himself as like the best clutch player in the league by a mile with what he did over the postseason. And the Pistons obviously haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals yet, but I think who knows if New York comes back and makes another run at the title, or if this was like a 1-year, one-off thing. But I think the Pistons have to be optimistic about who they are and what they can do moving forward.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Pistons because this is something that always frustrates me to a degree, because I get it. They fell short, but they had a good season. I don't know what you want to do with the timeline, but I think they're well ahead of schedule, especially if you consider where they were just 3 years ago. But, now people want them to ascend and go up the chain. But as soon as they lose, it's let's trade everybody. This team isn't nearly good enough. Let's get all the stars in here. We need Kyrie Irving. We need Kawhi Leonard. We need all of these aging stars, because that works out really well for most teams when they do that. But I'm curious kind of how you take in this team. And I think we both know, I mean, you follow the Pistons more closely than I do, but I think we both know that there are some gaps to be filled and some positions to be improved. But I think it's more in kind of the nominal progressive improvement rather than let's take a big swing. But I guess I'm wondering what your priority is here in the offseason, because they certainly have a lot to work with, but we know they need some upgrades, and where do we start with those?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to take a gamble at some point, and I mean, the gamble doesn't have to be trade all your draft picks for Kawhi Leonard or something like that. Like it can be find a impact player. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Trey Murphy. I don't know if New Orleans necessarily wants to move off of him, but I agree with you that it's more about internal development. Like Cade Cunningham's obviously your guy. The biggest question to answer is who is going to be your superstar, and the Pistons have that question answered. It's just about what you're going to do and who the players are going to be around him. I mean, I think Asar Thompson proved that he's going to be a core piece moving forward. Jalen Duren, I mean, I know he had a rocky postseason, left a lot to ask for, but he was a all-star player, took a huge leap this season. I mean, I would be surprised if the Pistons don't work out some sort of long-term deal to bring Duren back, and Thompson's eligible for an extension as well. So, I mean, I think you just lock in those. Cade's already locked in, but just lock up that core of 3 and then do what you can around them. They already have some good pieces, like some that will be here, some you have to re-sign, but I I do think that you need to make some sort of trade, and whether it's adding more three-point shooting, adding another ball handler creator next to Cade to make his life easier. That I just think that they have to make a bet at some point. It doesn't have to be like incredibly huge and giving up all your first round picks, but I think that's what they have to do to take the next leap and make a legitimate run at a title.
I'm 100% with you, and don't get me wrong. It probably sounded like I was kind of against it when I was talking about those big swings. But when one of the first names I heard was Kyrie Irving, it just made me sad immediately. And I get it. I get the potential fit. I think it's a little bit problematic as far as he's had a tough time kind of fitting in well, other than that Dallas stint for a while here. But I'm with you on the Trey Murphy thing. I think that's a rare aligning of timeline and still taking that swing for somebody that fits well. It's funny to me. I think people get caught up in kind of the history versus the potential, because I see a lot of people in favor of these trades for these aging superstars. And then when you offer a similar package for a guy like Trey Murphy, who is a young guy that would fit well on the team, I think, under a good contract, then people are like, oh, that's too much for Trey Murphy. But you'd spend it for some of these guys that you don't know what you're going to get out of them, given their age and everything. So it also is a perfect time, I think, from the standpoint of rarely is a team this deep with assets. They don't necessarily need all the picks that they have. They've got some young players. They've got some pieces that teams would be interested in, and they're going to run out of room for them if they don't trade them. If eventually the budget's not going to work and the playing time's not going to work to fit in three centers that all should be in the top two of the depth chart, or Thompson and Holland and all the other wings that you want to work your way in there. There's some pieces that you're going to have to cut, and although they're valuable pieces, you might as well try to maximize their value through a trade, even if, say, Holland's one of the pieces. He's been rumored in the Murphy deal and other deals. Even if he ends up being good, you still got good value out of him by trading him, and there's a few guys on this team like that.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the nice parts of like having a young team who is exceeding expectations and looks to be a legitimate contender is, I mean, the roster gets too expensive at a point, which puts you in a position to ask yourself some tough questions. But the good thing about the Pistons is I don't think they really have any bad contracts right now. I mean, that's before we know what a potential new deal for Jalen Duren looks like and how that could go through the course of the deal. But like some of these other teams, like San Antonio, after the finals that De'Aaron Fox had, his huge extension doesn't kick in until next year, and that puts them in a predicament. And the Thunder have to ask themselves similar questions with what they're going to do with Isaiah Hartenstein and how they're going to keep Kason Wallace and Lou Dort. I mean, the Pistons definitely have some similar questions to answer, because you can't, like if Holland grows into, takes a huge step, you can't pay all four of him, Duren, Cade, and Asar Thompson. So yeah, I think it would be wise to use some of your pieces in a trade to go and get a player that will help you now. And I mean, the nice thing about that is that like Holland still has a ton of value. I love Isaiah Stewart, but his name's been mentioned in trade talks too. Like these guys have real value to other NBA teams, and the Pistons have all their draft picks to go and make a deal too. So I think they're in a good spot, and they're probably thrilled to have to answer some of those questions this offseason after exceeding expectations as much as they did last year.
and you have good backfill for a lot of those guys. Like I do like Stewart too. I think he's a bit undervalued. His playoff run was not great, just like Duran's, but he does provide a lot of value as a rim protector and a guy that fits in with the team well. But you've got Paul Reed looming. I know some people kind of overshot with him with how well he has played in his minutes, but it's also hard to escape how well he's played as a third center. And so you have a guy that could potentially play backup. No, not the same way that Stu would, but he would still provide good value there, be something a little different than him. Same with like a Javonte Green versus a Ron Holland. Is he going to be as good? Not necessarily, but he's a trusted veteran that played well in the team concept and could be had for a little less. And then you're selling Holland as far as his potential early on to another team. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. I do think they're going to be somewhat aggressive and try to consolidate some of those pieces, because we did see in the playoff that by the time they got there, they really you can't play 12 guys in the playoffs. It's hard to have that. They had a big rotation for the playoffs, and Holland and others were still left out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like Holland could grow into that, but it's asking him to take a huge step quickly. Like, this isn't a rebuilding team anymore. They're fighting for the playoffs, and to take that next step and like do what the Knicks did after losing in the second round and losing in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So yeah, I do think that they were one of the deeper teams in the league, which is good. I mean, you need that over the course of the season and the playoffs, because you never know what's going to happen in terms of injuries and suspensions. But yeah, you're right to point out Paul Reed, like his emergence as like a true guy who can change the game for this team makes like, I don't think Stewart is necessarily expendable, but if you have to include him in a trade to get something done, I think it makes it a little more easier to swallow.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that their value above replacement is any less. It just means that the value of the replacement is maybe more than in other situations.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, I would be surprised if they didn't make some sort of trade in the offseason. That doesn't really mean it has to be a huge deal to get like a Kyrie Irving, like you were talking about, or a Kawhi Leonard or anything. But I mean, when you look at the free agent class too, like there's some good names that could help the Pistons, but there's a lot of players on that list that are restricted free agents or who have player or team options with their former teams, which the Pistons don't have the control there. So I think that all adds up into some sort of trade, whether it's a big one for like a Murphy or a veteran star or someone that we might not even be thinking about who can really help address and fill a need for this team.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens with the offseason. I think it's going to be an interesting one. But we got to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk about one of your articles where you ranked the NBA commentators, because I like commentator rankings. I want more of them. And I always try to get people to talk about it with me on the show, and sometimes that's harder, but you have your rankings already. So I'm excited to talk about that with Blake Silverman of the Pistons Pin Down podcast and SI. So come back and check that out with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Coming back here with Blake Silverman of the Pistons Pin Down podcast and SI. And on SI, he had a great article on there. Like I said, I'm always looking for announcer rankings, and he did one. I didn't even know he did this. I wandered onto it because I do read his stuff, and he had a top 5 basketball broadcasters. So I'm curious how this came up and how you kind of arrived. We'll go through your rankings here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this was just a story that we wanted to do at Sports Illustrated over the postseason, because I mean, with the NBA's new media rights deal, like we saw games on Amazon Prime, on NBC and Peacock, and of course the finals and everything before on ABC and ESPN. So those networks all have some historic, like, great announcers. So we thought it would be a fun way into talking about like who would actually be calling some of the biggest games of the year. And then when we were talking about it, I mean, I'm with you. I think announcers are a critical part of the game. And I mean, they bring the energy and they have to know how to call these incredible moments that are unfolding over them in real time. And so many of the names on this list that I'm sure we'll talk about have like signature calls that I just love. So it was just one that I could have some fun with.
Well, one of the things I liked about the article is that it highlighted a couple of guys that I really like, because I do kind of nerd out about this commentating stuff. I like to talk about the football broadcasters as well. So maybe that's an article idea for the football season, because I do like, I have this conversation with friends of mine and fans all the time where they'll say they don't like somebody. Well, I don't like somebody that's usually pretty out there as far as like in a lot of different games and realms, like a Joe Buck. And they'll say, well, yeah, I don't really care for Joe Buck. He always seems like he's, rooting for the other team or whatever. And then I'll say, well, what play-by-play guy do you like? Well, let's see. I like Chris Collinsworth. And I'm like, well, he's not a play-by-play guy. Well, Tony Romo. I mean, he's not a play-by-play guy either. And that's kind of how the conversation goes. And I do think it's an underrated part of the game, like you were saying. And there's a couple of my favorites on here, but I'm curious about the ones that fell off the list, because I don't know the exact pool that you were pulling from. But if I've got my notes correct, you're missing a couple potential big names in this top five.
Yeah, the hardest ones for me to leave off were, and you're right to bring up the difference between play-by-play and color. Like, I held myself to just play-by-play guys because there are so many great color analysts as well, and everyone that's coming in. It just makes it hard to give the play-by-play guys their credit, and they're the ones with like the great calls, so I want to give them some highlight. But I think the biggest miss on my end, or the toughest one to leave off, was definitely Mike Tirico. And I mean, he does a lot of everything, a lot of football and stuff. And then the other big ones are probably Michael Grady, he does Timberwolves games and then does some like national games as well. And then Ian Eagle is on there, but his son Noah, who's a pretty good play-by-play announcer, missed the cut as well. But he has a lot of time to make up for it.
Well, the Ian versus Noah thing is interesting to me, because I think because the kind of layman ear isn't necessarily trained to it, I think he gets lost in the shuffle. Noah does, because I don't think a lot of fans even realize that it's not Ian on the call, because he does sound fairly similar. I always know when he's doing the call, but he does sound similar. So I'm sure people are like, oh, I've heard this before. Who's this guy again? And then like, oh yeah, this is Ian Eagle. It's like, no, it's his son, but they do sound pretty similar. But like you said, he's got time there. I think my favorite inclusion, you've got Ruocco at 5, and that's a good one. I think he's an underrated play-by-play guy. But Eric Collins is a guy that deserves being highlighted, because I think if you watch any clips online, you've probably heard him, but you haven't necessarily recognized it, because a lot of his Hornets clips go viral. But there was a season that I watched almost every Hornets game, and it wasn't because I was becoming a big LaMelo Ball fan. It was because I wanted to listen to his call.
Yeah, he was a no-brainer inclusion for me. And I think there are obviously some of the other guys have been doing it for a lot longer and are just like legends of the game. And Collins does some like college basketball too. But yeah, I think to me, like, I have some friends who really do not like Collins. I think he's a little like, he's a little bit of an acquired taste, I think. But for me, I just think his calls where he's just loses control of like his body and what he's saying are just so exciting and fun. And especially, I think the reason like some people might not like him is like sometimes he's just jumping out of his chair for like a missed free throw or something like that. But I just think that's adding some fun to the game. And I like what you said about him calling Hornets games, and he does some national stuff with Amazon Prime now too. But I think he's paired with this incredible team that you have LaMelo Ball, who's like one of the flashiest players in the league, and they have Brandon Miller, who can throw it down, Miles Bridges, and like one of those exciting teams that really runs and it will throw down some incredible dunks, a few in a game. And then you have LaMelo, who's like making threes from a logo or just throwing a crazy pass. So I think it's sort of a match made in heaven there.
Definitely. And it's funny because when I watch the Sunday football games, I usually have the quad box on, and if the Lions are not in that window, then I just pick 4 games, but I pick the games based on who the broadcasters are typically. If I don't have any interest that I'm watching for the show, like the Lions play them the next week or what have you, then I just pick based on the broadcasters. I'll hear it for a few seconds and go, nope, what's the next one? Oh, yeah, this one's good. And I pulled up, it was a Miami Dolphins game. It couldn't have been a worse game. I think it was Dolphins Carolina, but I immediately recognized Eric Collins as the broadcaster and thought that I'm in. I'm not watching any of the other games. I'm single screen on this one because I think he's one of those guys kind of like Jason Benetti, who people now know in the market because of the Tigers connection, that he's been doing it for a while and he just hasn't really hit the next level yet. And Benetti's at that precipice right now, and I think Collins is probably one step behind him, but he's coming because I think people are going to be interested in that because, like you said, it is a little bit of an acquired taste as far as he's more in like the Gus Johnson or Dick Vitale. I know he's on the color side, but the idea that they're very excitable. Some people don't always like that, but if you do, I think it's very entertaining.
Yeah, and I mean, a similar thing happened to me. I think it was just like a random Saturday or something. I was flipping through the channels and I'm probably getting the teams wrong, but it was like a Providence, Georgetown, Big East game or something like that. And I heard Collins on the mic and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to keep watching this one because I haven't heard him call college basketball before. And he's just exactly the same as he is on like a Hornets broadcast or a national NBA game he gets. So he's just, if he's nothing else, he's incredibly fun. And obviously then you have Del Curry as his color guy for Hornets games. So I think they're a great pairing too, who work well off each other. But yeah, another thing about Collins is like his calls are very, in this age of social media, they're just built for clips. Like he'll often go viral with something crazy he says after a wild LaMelo Ball 3 or something, just for how he yells. So I think that's a fun aspect too.
Definitely. And I mean, it's kind of more just what you like, because then Ian Eagle is next, and he's a very solid call, a little bit sarcastic, but pretty solid, especially being paired with Stan Van Gundy. That's made him more sarcastic because Stan is very sarcastic as well. And then the top two are interesting because I don't think you can pick anybody but Breen. My favorite of the group is Kevin Harlan, but it'd be hard to put him above because I do like the more excitable ones. And after you see Kevin Harlan call like a streaker during the game or a cat that's gone onto the field, I there's nobody else that could do that the way he does. Maybe Collins.
Yeah, Kevin Harlan is great, and I think he's like had like a little bit of a lighter schedule on the NBA front this year, which I think was of his choosing with TNT not retaining rights, and he's still working games for Amazon, but like whenever he's on the mic, it's an absolute treat. And like you can go down the list of his incredible calls. I mean, the most famous one on the NBA side is probably LeBron James with No Regard for Human Life, which is just an absolute classic. And like he called Kawhi Leonard's incredible buzzer beater to beat the Sixers in Game 7. And my favorite one, which is a little, I mean, it's famous, but maybe not the biggest one. And I mentioned it in the article, or you can look it up on YouTube, but Jamal Murray had like a 3/4 court shot a couple years ago against the Wolves in the playoffs. And it was right before halftime. He drained it, and Harlan was just saying like, got it into the mic. And Murray hit the shot like right in front of Harlan and just looked at Harlan, and Harlan was like yelling the call right at Jamal Murray. It's just like an incredible highlight that if anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, you have to go look that up after you are done with the show.
Yeah, he's got a picture of that moment in the article, so be sure to check it out. But yeah, tell the folks where they can check you out here on the SI side and the Piston side.
Yeah, you can. I mean, honestly, all my written work is on SI.com. And if you just look up my name, you can probably find some of my articles and stuff. And yeah, and then on the Piston side, DetroitBadBoys.com, the whole group's over there doing some incredible stuff, keeping up with the off season. And then my podcast with Wes Davenport is through Detroit Bad Boys as well. So you can find that wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's called The Pin Down. We record weekly, so you can tap into that, and yeah, would really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for having me on too.
Definitely worth a follow, and yeah, appreciate you coming on, and we'll look forward to having you on again here, maybe for the football article that's upcoming here before the season.
Well, yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
Thanks, Blake. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks to Blake Silverman. Appreciate him joining us. A lot of commentating talk. I like that. But I'm going to check in with Big G here. I haven't talked to him much since Shelley left, so we'll have to take a quick break, but then we'll get set up and talk to Big G here. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM. Glad you could join us on National Fudge Day, or to celebrate National Fudge Day. It's more National Big Boy Day / Lobster Day, but we couldn't do as much with that. But we got our fudge coverage in with the different flavors that were selected by our guests here. What are you bobbing your head at me, Big G? You're just looking at me. They can't hear you looking at me. They might be able to hear it. You think they can hear it? I'm just going to narrate it.
They can feel it.
They can feel it?
They can feel it. They
probably know that, because really when there's that pause, that pregnant pause there when Big G is at the mic, he's literally at the mic. It's not that he's not ready. It's that his mind has not censored what's going to come out at me, I think. Is that a correct assumption?
Well, I would never say anything that would get us kicked off the air.
Well, that's what I mean. You're being a professional, but then you just have to cycle through some of those things. No, I can't say that to him on air. No, I can't say that second one.
Oh, no, I prepped for what I'm going to say to you probably way before the show.
Well, I can tell, because when I come in, it doesn't, we both get here on the earlier side, and so it starts right away. It's like you're a kid on Christmas Day. You're just immediately ready to fire your barbs at me.
You know what? I should have fired you when Shelley was here for suggesting I run a marathon.
Hey, she suggested it. She started it. She did start it.
She started it, but you're the one who said, hey, let's go.
I don't think we were agreeing to the marathon, though, were we? Wasn't that it was the fun run. It was where we could skip, hop, and jump. That's like a 5K.
Well, yeah, and I'm sorry, but I'm not skipping anywhere with you.
What about hopping? Can I interest you in a hop?
No.
What about a jump?
No.
Okay, then walk or run. Those are the only two. Okay, just walk.
Walk.
Okay. I mean, let's get creative about it, though. You don't want to hop? Maybe throw a hop or a skip in there. Just every once in a while. Every mile. You just skip. You just need to skip sometimes. It might elicit a childhood joy.
It would register on the Richter scale.
I don't know about that, Big G. See, it's just about having fun, though. It's just about getting out there. I do like that she advertised that because it's fitting that she has a run.
Yeah, sure.
Because she's been in the run game for a long time. It's cool that she still does the running and competes in these national, international competitions and represents the U.S. So it was fun to have her. It's nice to have Adam Jaksa talking to us about the lug nuts and CMU, and then Blake Silverman did a great job covering the Pistons and the finals and everything. Want to thank our sponsors as well: Collectibles Insurance Services, Eric Hall Aesthetic and General Dentistry, Calder Financial, Grand Management Group, Rydan Investments, Encore Business Group, Jim Hageland of JH Realty, Williams Chiropractic, I-Core, and the West Michigan Sports Commission. They've got the state games coming up, so be sure to check them out. And I want to wish a happy birthday. I actually texted him during the show to make sure I didn't forget about it, to one of a friend of the show here who's been on the show a few times, Lance Parrish's birthday today.
Hey, yes.
So happy birthday to the big wheel here. He said he's having a good day so far. So glad he's able to celebrate here. And we got to preview the schedule here a little bit, being the beginning of the week. We've got the Sports Project 7 and 9 on Wednesday. Obviously during the day, we've always got the Conrad's Country Bunker and Rowdy's Ride Home for our 2 daytime shows. And then you got Steve's show on Wednesday, Shane Graham's Extra Points on Thursday. If you want to hear me again, you'll be able to hear Shane at least. And Big G, you're shaking your head at me, but you're getting even more of me this week because I'm covering the Sports Project on Saturday, 10 to 12.
Oh, well, I'm not getting you. Big Scott's getting you.
Well, I know, but you're just shaking your head at the idea of me being on the airwaves more. But that'll be the first time I've worked with Big Scott in a while. I think because he usually only does Steve's shows. So
yeah,
it'll be good to work with him. But that'll be on Saturday, along with the Polka Pops and the All Request show that Jeff Isaac does, and then more Polka Pops on Sunday. I like all the Polka Pops that we have.
Yeah, polka's good.
What's your favorite polka?
My favorite polka is by an artist by the name of Lenny Gomulka, and it is called Red Rubber Ball.
That sounded completely made up, but it sounded so convincing, though.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh is brought to you by
Collectible Insurance Services, Eric Hall Aesthetic and General Dentistry, Calder Financial, Grand Management Group, Rydan Investments, Encore Business Group, Jim Hageland of JH Realty, Williams Chiropractic, I-Core, the West Michigan Sports Commission.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh.
Stay informed and stay vigilant.